Hi, this is Kim Newlove, host of the Pharmacist's Voice podcast. If you're new to the show, welcome. I am a pharmacist by training, but I made a career transition to voice actor and podcast host. Among other things, I narrate audiobooks for women pharmacist authors, provide medical narration to clients in the pharmaceutical and biotech industries, and narrate content for explainer videos and e-learning projects. I was inspired by my nonverbal teenaged son with autism to leverage my identity as a pharmacist and my speaking voice to launch my voiceover business, The Pharmacist's Voice, in 2017. My son Craig helped me realize the power of having a voice and using it. Each week, I alternate solo podcast episodes and interview shows. The solo shows are about some aspect of being a pharmacist, a voice actor, a pharmacist podcaster, or my career transition from pharmacist to voice actor and podcast host. My interview shows feature a variety of people who use their voices to advocate for something, educate in some way, or entertain so that you are inspired to use your voice too. This is episode 136, and you can find the show notes with links to anything mentioned today on my website, thepharmacistsvoice.com. You can also find my medical narration demo and a link to my online course, Pronounce Drug Names Like a Pro, on my website. That website again is thepharmacistsvoice.com. It's February 17th, 2022 as I record this, and this is my winter update. I started with a summer update in August 2021, that was just last year, and then I gave a fall update in November 2021. I feel like these quarterly updates are an opportunity for me to share some of the more personal parts of my journey that may help you get to know me better. So today, I will keep my comfortable routine going with a winter update. I debated what to put in this episode. It could be anything, right? So I made a list, and I'm just going to go through it from top to bottom. Don't worry, it's not a particularly long list. Let's start with an update on my business. What's going on with the Pharmacist's Voice, LLC? First of all, let me say that I have several streams of income. It's a business, right? Right now, my business has 5 streams of income. Real quick, they are 1. Audiobooks, 2. Royalties from the sale of audiobooks, 3. My online course, 4. Voiceover projects, and 5. Consulting. The way that I structure my audiobook deals, at this time anyway, is the royalty share plus model. I get paid per finished hour, plus I earn a royalty on the sale of each audiobook that I've narrated. Not all audiobook deals work this way. It's just how I have structured my last 2. Do you want to know more? Okay, here we go. On my last 2 audiobooks, I asked for $100 per finished hour. A quick example would be a 4-hour audiobook at $100 per finished hour equals $400 up front. Actually, I get half after the first 15 minutes. It's like a checkpoint. And then I get the other half after the client approves the finished files. That's just how it works with Royalty Share Plus. Once the book goes retail, I get a small royalty, maybe $2 per audiobook sold. It's not a lot, but it's money coming in on a regular basis. In summary, it's one business transaction, but 2 ways to get paid. Audiobook projects take me a lot of time. I don't know if I've ever talked about this. It's not just sitting in front of the microphone and reading. There is research involved. I have to meet with the author and/or the publisher on formatting, pronunciations, and other questions. I have to prep the manuscript. That means on my iPad, I have a PDF and I have to insert any comments about what I'm reading on there so I don't goof anything up when I'm actually recording, editing, and producing the book. The books that I narrate are tens of thousands of words long, so you better believe I spend time up front prepping. It's the right thing to do. I've got one shot to get the emotional point, the tone, the pacing, the sentence structure, and so on right. And I care about doing it right. So I prepare, and I take my time. Now that I understand how much time it takes to finish an audiobook project, I have my sights on shorter projects. Audiobooks take a lot of time. Did I mention audiobooks take a lot of time? But time is not something that I have a lot of. Training to narrate audiobooks and actually doing the job are two different things. You don't know until you do it. I didn't know how much time it would take me until I did it. 100 books down the line, it will be a lot different story. While I'm producing an audiobook, I typically don't make time to work on other audio projects. I like to finish one major project at a time. My work week is 15 hours long. That encompasses everything: podcasting, networking, meetings with potential clients and current clients, returning calls, recording, editing, and producing projects, and so on. My audiobook clients have been great. They let me work on my own timeline, and it's worked out so far. I love the challenge of narrating audiobooks, and I'm grateful for the work. But I'd like to focus on shorter projects after this current audiobook. I'm not closing the door completely on audiobooks. If anyone needs an audiobook narrated and they're flexible on the timeline, I'm still interested. If that's you, send me a message from the contact form on my website, thepharmacistvoice.com. I've also consulted with at least 2 authors who are in the healthcare space and want to narrate their own audiobooks. If you're an author and this is the situation you need, I am available by the hour to prepare you to narrate your own audiobook. Again, use the contact form on my website, thepharmacistvoice.com. I am an audiobook narrator. I can tell you what you need to do in order to narrate your own audiobook. Moving on. My online course is still on the market, and I still earn money from that. If you're interested in learning the secrets to pronouncing drug names, you can find my online course titled Pronounce Drug Names Like a Pro at kimnewlove.com. That's kimnewlove.com. The investment is $99 per student. Why take the course? Well, it will help you feel less frustrated learning drug names and more confident saying them. My online course is an unpredictable source of income. By the way, I am updating it this summer. So if you are a student, check it out. Maybe in August, I should have all the changes done. I got some great feedback from students, plus an independent reviewer that I hired this winter. I've got like a whole list of things that I want to change. Changes are coming soon. I hope that if you are a student, you enjoy those changes. Also this year, I am planning to create a new online course. It has nothing to do with drug name pronunciations. What it's going to be is kind of like a what's under the hood of Kim Newlove's podcast. So I can show people what software I use to create my MP3s, how I create my show notes, what my podcast host looks like, things like that. And I think that what I'd like to do is also start a podcast rendering service, meaning I'm going to help people make the MP3 so they can also become podcasters. More on that in a future quarterly update. I really don't have my stuff together for that yet. All right, moving on. Voiceover projects are also a stream of income for me. Those projects come at random times. I haven't been auditioning for many voiceover projects at this time because I'm still, as you heard, in production for an audiobook, and I really need to finish that before I move on to other projects. Behind the scenes, though, I'm always talking to clients and potential clients. I just hope to take on more projects as soon as I'm done with this audiobook. Consulting is also part of my business. Like I mentioned a little while ago, I have consulted with a couple of authors who want to narrate their own books. I have also consulted with some clients in the e-learning and podcasting space as well. It's fun to have a variety of projects to work on. Okay, that was actually one of my favorite things about practicing pharmacy. Every day was different. Can you relate? The top 200 or whatever drugs never change, but the faces of the people who came in changed. The type of problems that needed to be solved were a mixed bag too. Variety is the spice of life, right? Now, as far as voiceover projects go, when I consult on a project, I only get paid if the projects go into production. And that's normal. We talk, we negotiate rates and terms, we sign contracts, then I go into production. As an example, an online educator reached out to me recently. I think it was last month. We spent almost an hour getting to know one another. I got to know what they needed. They got to know how I work, my rate, the types of files I can deliver, whether I can accommodate a directed session, and so on. I didn't get paid for that hour, and that's normal. But when I get paid for future projects and that client becomes a repeat client, that 1 hour of consulting at no charge is not a big deal. Now, if a client wanted to hire me to cast a project, meaning find the talent, listen to auditions, and present the top 3 candidates, I would prefer a per-hour fee. But before I do the work, I negotiate the rate. Sorry if I'm boring you, but consulting to me can mean a lot of things. Some consulting is baked into deals, other consulting is by the hour. And I like a mixed bag, so I definitely like consulting on different kinds of projects. Negotiating rates for consulting projects takes skill, though, and as I become a seasoned entrepreneur, I am getting better at that. In summary, I am in production for a Royalty Share Plus audiobook. I'm collecting audiobook royalties. My online course is still selling, and I've consulted on many projects, several of which I have yet to land. How does Troy Polamalu say it in his shampoo commercial, the Head and Shoulders commercial? Never not working. I think that's what he says. Well, anyways, that's me. Never not working. In the few hours that I get to work on my business each week, I am never not working. I love what I do, and selfishly, I wish I could do more of it. Maybe someday. For now, my family needs me more. Next, let's talk about what's going on with the Pharmacist's Voice podcast. If you're a longtime listener of the Pharmacist's Voice podcast, thank you for listening. And you probably already know that I love the challenge of publishing one podcast episode per week. So I will continue that schedule for now. In fact, I actually have every week planned through the end of July 2022. I have a few guests that I need to invite yet. They're on my production schedule, but I either haven't asked them to be on the show or they haven't committed yet, but that's only a few, like 3 guests. Who are some of the guests that I have lined up, you may ask? Right now, I am finishing up my Pharmacogenomics Pharmacist series, or PGX Pharmacist series. February 25th is an interview with Mariam S. Yasin. She's a Manchester University College of Pharmacy student. And March 11th is an interview with Dr. Jamie Wilkey. Jamie is the founder of the PGX Consulting Confidence Academy. PGX Consulting Confidence Academy. Boy, that's a mouthful. I can't wait to talk to her. She's a fellow pharmacist mom and a boy mom. Angel Bivens, a poison prevention specialist from the University of Maryland School of Pharmacy, will return to the podcast on March 25th. Always a pleasure talking to her. It's Poison Prevention Week, the 3rd full week of March, and Angel has some important messages to share. I'm looking forward to talking to her. Then I'm leaving my interview slot on April 8th open in case I get some on-location interviews at the annual conference of the Ohio Pharmacists Association in Columbus, Ohio, the weekend of April 1st through 3rd. Then on April 22nd, Dr. Christina Madison, the public health pharmacist, will be on the show again. We're going to focus on our roles as working mothers of children with autism and the gifts and challenges that go along with those roles. In the month of May, I have a Pharmacist Mom series planned. There are 4 Fridays in May, so there will be 4 Pharmacist Mom interviews. Let's not forget the Pharmacist Dads. I will have a Pharmacist Dad series in June, too. 4 Fridays, 4 dads. July will include interviews with some women pharmacists who are in the beauty space. Plus, I am going to reach out to my branding and headshot photographer and his wife, who's my makeup artist, to see if they'd like to share some tips about headshots and branding photos. The weeks that aren't scheduled as interviews will be solo episodes where I talk about being a pharmacist, a voice actor, a pharmacist podcaster, or my career transition from pharmacist to voice actor and podcast host. I don't have everything 100% in place yet, but I think you get the picture. My production schedule is full until the end of July. It feels good to have a plan, and I am looking forward to making everything happen. As I was talking about my podcast production schedule, I mentioned that I'm going to the annual conference of the Ohio Pharmacists Association. I'm actually really excited about this because I haven't gotten to a conference in person since last October, and I really like it. That going in October to Metapreneurs in Cincinnati reminded me how much I like live conferences. OPA, as I call it, the annual conference of the Ohio Pharmacists Association, OPA, is April 1st through 3rd, 2022. It's in Columbus, Ohio. I've got my conference and hotel registration complete. Everything's booked. Now, all I have to do is show up, and I am so excited. I am looking forward to the networking, the trade show, and attending the CEs. Especially the one highlighting how pharmacists in Ohio have implemented provider status. That's exciting. If you want to learn more about the annual conference of the Ohio Pharmacists Association, there's a link in the show notes. Check that out. In family news, my son Craig is turning 19 this month. Holy cow, I feel old. I am about to have a child who's in his last teen year. Wow, can you relate? It seems like just yesterday I brought him home from the hospital. We're celebrating with a family party this weekend. There will be cake, ice cream, and gifts. He loves sugar. I'm sure he'll be excited. Now, this is my son with autism. He is very easy to please, and that is one of the blessings of having a child with challenges. He's very easy to please. I'm baking his cake. You're going to love this. Our local library has cake pans and other items, not just books, that you can borrow. This year, we're actually making 2 cakes. One is a party hat, the other looks like a gumball machine. Have you ever seen those memes showing a fancy, professionally made cake versus a homemade cake? Yeah? Well, that'll be me. I'm not the professional one. I am great at following the directions on the cake mix. I'm sure the cake will taste fine, but the frosting part will not win any prizes. If I get brave, I will post pictures of the cakes on Instagram. If we are not connected, you can follow me at KimNewloveVO. That's KIMNEWLOVE, V like voice, O like over. So I'm like a voice actor, voiceover. So at KimNewloveVO. In other family news, my husband and I just celebrated our 29th dating anniversary. What is a dating anniversary? Well, for most people, I'm sure it's not a thing. But my husband and I met on Valentine's Day in 1993, and that's the day that we claim as our dating anniversary, because we've been together since the day we met. Don't get me wrong, we've been through lots of ups and downs, but we're still very much in love and riding this roller coaster called life together. Although we've been together for 29 years, we have only been married for 20, almost 21 years. It will be 21 years in June, in fact. We met when I was 14 and he was 17. I was a freshman, he was a senior. We survived 3 years of a long-distance relationship in the 90s probably because there were fewer distractions and we were both good students. We didn't have cell phones or the internet back then. We wrote each other letters. We called each other on the phone when we could afford to. It was 10 cents a minute. And then we would maybe see each other once or twice a month. It was actually nice not stressing about boys in high school. My boyfriend was in college. It all worked out. We're celebrating our 29th dating anniversary. On a different topic, I do a lot of housework in addition to spending a lot of time with my family. Now, at first, you might think I'm about to launch into a rant about chores or being bored with my family, but I'm not. I get to consume a lot of content while I'm making beds, doing dishes, washing and folding laundry, cleaning the house, preparing meals, spending time with my family, and working out at the gym. Here are some of the things that I have recently listened to, watched, read, or played. Last week, I listened to an audiobook called Baby Steps Millionaires by Dave Ramsey. It is a great book. Highly recommend it if you're interested in eliminating debt and saving up for retirement. This week, I listened to an audiobook called Everybody Fights, So Why Not Get Better at It by Penn and Kim Holderness. I highly recommend this one if you're in a marriage, a romantic relationship, or a domestic partnership. Since the beginning of the year, I have been tackling a very long but excellent audiobook called Beyond Powerful Radio by Valerie Geller. If you're in broadcasting of any kind, even podcasting, this may be a good book for you. What else am I listening to? All the time, let me tell you, I listen to podcasts. I have a lot of housework to do, so I just throw on a podcast or an audiobook and I am entertained. This week, I listened to the School of Podcasting podcast, and I learned a great recipe, as I call it, for creating a trailer for my podcast. I don't have a podcast trailer yet, but I think it would be good to have one, so I will create one this year. Other podcasts that I have listened to this week include CPHT Connect podcast, Up First, which is by NPR, Mike Len's Voice, A Journey into Voice Acting, and I have also listened to the Edutainer podcast with Dr. Aaron L. Albert. Love that one. Every week, I listen to several podcasts. Some of the time, the purpose of listening to a podcast is to do what I call recon or research on an upcoming podcast guest for my show. It's like doing homework. Knowing what a guest has already put out into the world helps me make our conversation different. And different, in my opinion, is good. What have I read lately? I read a lot of books in general, and some of them I read with Craig, my son, and some I read on my own. Here are 3 that I have read with Craig and 1 that I've been reading on my own. With Craig, I recently read The Reason I Jump by Naoki Higashida. Hopefully I pronounced that right. It's written by a 13-year-old boy with autism, and he explains why he has certain behaviors, like jumping. The second book that Craig and I read together was The Martian by Andy Weir. We read the book, then watched the movie. One of my favorite things in life is to read a book and then watch the movie. I don't even compare them. I'm just so easily entertained that I enjoy the book, then I enjoy the movie. The end. Right now, we are reading a different kind of a book. It's called No Summit Out of Sight, the true story of the youngest person to climb the 7 summits. It's by Jordan Romero and Linda LeBlanc. I love the map of the location of the mountains in the front of the book. So far, we both like it. And no, I am not inspired by this book to climb the 7 summits. Reading the book is good enough for me. On my own, I'm reading Presentation Zen by Gar Reynolds. It's about presentation design and delivery. I love it. No audiobook for this one, though. It is very visual. What am I watching right now? With my family, I am watching The Amazing Race, Go Penn and Kim, Cobra Kai, and some of the Olympics. We recently watched a couple of Disney movies, too. They are Encanto, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, and Soul. Both of them were good. If you have kids of any age, those are both worth watching. Now, my husband and I like to watch a little bit of TV together, too. We just started watching the TV show 30 Rock, and I can't believe that it took me like 10 years to get to the show, maybe longer, I don't know. We're like 10 years behind watching TV. Folks out there listening to this that are raising kids, you know what I'm talking about. You just get behind on your TV watching. But good TV, funny stuff is funny stuff, no matter when you watch it. On my own, I don't watch TV at all. The only time I actually turn on the TV for myself is when there's a tornado warning. No joke. But lately, I do watch Dr. Megan Freeland's Health Writing for Health Professionals YouTube series while I'm at the gym. I just put it on my iPad or my iPhone, put on my Beats headphones, and I go ahead and get that workout done. I love to multitask. If you haven't guessed it, I love to multitask. I am so guilty of that. But anyways, back to the YouTube series that Dr. Megan Freeland has put out, Health Writing for Health Professionals. If you're a pharmacist who's interested in becoming a medical writer of any kind, you need to watch Megan's YouTube channel. I'll put a link to it in the show notes. I personally have been thinking about becoming a medical writer, and Megan puts out some great points, some great content. I love consuming it. I'm learning while I'm working out. If you're curious about what kind of medical writing that I'm interested in, I'm actually interested in writing podcast show notes for healthcare podcasts. I've been writing podcast show notes for years. I've done it for like 2 years, more than 135 episodes. Why not monetize that skill? That's my thought anyway. Back to talking about movies here. One movie that I would really like to watch in the near future is On the Basis of Sex. It's about the early years in Ruth Bader Ginsburg's career. I've heard great things about it, I just haven't seen it yet. What am I playing lately? This past weekend, my husband, our younger son Derek, and I, we all played Pandemic. Have you ever heard of the board game Pandemic? If you've never played it, it's a lot more fun than living through the COVID-19 pandemic. Pandemic, the board game, which we started playing years before the COVID-19 pandemic, combines strategy and geography, two of my favorite things. Players work as a team to defeat 4 viruses. There are 3 difficulty levels: easy, medium, and hard. We chose medium and we lost. We still had fun, but we lost. I also play Ticket to Ride on my iPad as often as I can, and occasionally I can talk my family into playing the board game with me. Switzerland, Nordic countries, and the Mega USA 1910 maps are my current favorites. As you can probably tell, being a full-time stay-at-home mom and part-time voice actor and podcast host has its advantages. I know that I am lucky that I get to consume all this content, play games, and spend time with my family. Believe me, I am chomping at the bit to work more, but I really do enjoy the time that I am not working, too. I'm almost at the bottom of my list here. Almost done here. I don't know if I've talked about this on the podcast yet. My husband, his name's Nathan, changed jobs in December. Nathan lost his job with an employer he had been with for more than 12 and a half years at the end of April 2020. It was due to a reduction in force. He didn't do anything wrong, and they claim it's not pandemic related, so I'll go with that. It was a reduction in force, or RIF. I think his official last day was May 1st, 2020. Nathan looked around and ended up as an operations manager for Amazon from August 31st, 2020 until December 3rd, 2021. That's just over 15 months. Nathan worked every Sunday for more than a year when he was employed by Amazon. Unfortunately, I couldn't handle taking our older son, Craig, to church without Nathan. So we were attending church online for a while. When Nathan quit his job at Amazon in December, we started to go to church again, regularly. And that was awesome. So I'm just happy to say that Nathan has a new job. He likes it. He doesn't work Sundays anymore. And we are happy to be attending church on a regular basis as a family again. In other family news, my older son Craig got his senior picture taken last month. It's different from a typical kid senior picture, and this is bittersweet, because even though he's technically a 12th grader, a senior, he's not going to graduate this year. It's bittersweet because he's going to be in the yearbook with all these kids that he's grown up with from kindergarten through 12th grade. But he's not graduating. Next year and the year after that, until he's 22 probably, he'll still be in public school, but he'll be focusing on vocational skills. We're trying to figure out if he's employable. Having a son with autism that's low functioning is kind of tricky. You go through all the motions, you try to get them to be as independent and intelligent as possible, but when you have somebody who can't read, write, or speak, even at the age of 18 going on 19, you have to think, are they employable? Do they have skills that will make them successful independently with hygiene, with food preparation, with safety? So it's kind of bittersweet. He's got the senior picture, but he's really not a senior. He's going to be in school next year, but his classmates aren't. Anyways, that's what's going on with that. We also had Craig's IEP this month. If you've never heard of an IEP, that is an individualized education plan meeting. What we do is we talk about, hey, he doesn't know how to read, write, or speak. What are we going to do? And we talk about my vision and my husband's vision for the future. We want him to be employable at least an hour a day, Monday through Friday, and that's the goal. We're going to see if the school can help our son become employable. We have our responsibilities too. We work on things that can only be worked on at home. So we are definitely doing our part. My other son, Derek, on the other hand, is a high school junior, and he's looking at colleges. He's also taking the ACT and the SAT this spring, and he's helping me plan his college visits. Do you remember those days, planning your college visits? My husband happened to go to the University of Toledo. That is the only college visit that I went on. I knew where I was going. I followed a boy. It worked out. 29 years later, here we are. Our son Derek wants to study engineering, just like his dad. His goal, however, is to become a construction engineer, which is what my cousin Jessica does. She lives out in the greater Seattle, Washington area, and I'm very proud of her. Jessica talked to my son Derek over Christmas break, and Derek, it turns out, really likes her job, and he wants to do that too. Hooray for family role models, right? That's awesome. Derek has 4 colleges in mind. He's thinking about the University of Cincinnati, the University of Toledo, again, that's where my husband and I went, and he's also thinking about The Ohio State University and Stanford University. I would love for him to go to Stanford, but I don't have that much money saved up. Time will tell where Derek ends up going. For now, we're just browsing. All right, we're at the very bottom of the list here, almost done. On a fun note, we're trying to plan our annual summer vacation. It's hard because the kids have summer stuff going on. Craig has summer school, and Derek has, oh my gosh, so much stuff. Training for his last season of cross country. He's got a weightlifting class. He's got a girlfriend, and he's an umpire for Little League baseball games. Busy kid. But we are trying to figure something out. The Sleeping Bear Dunes in Michigan is a strong possibility. I haven't planned anything yet. By the time I do my spring update, I'll know more. That's all I had on my list today. I'm going to wrap this up by saying thank you for listening to episode 136 of the Pharmacist's Voice podcast. Please visit thepharmacistvoice.com to read the show notes. I'll have links to my summer and fall 2021 updates, Ticket to Ride and Pandemic, the board games, Dr. Megan Freeland's Health Writing for Health Professionals YouTube channel, and all the books that I mentioned in the show notes. If you know someone who might like this episode, share it with them, and subscribe to or follow the Pharmacist's Voice podcast on your favorite podcast player to get each new episode delivered to your smartphone every time a new episode comes out. Thank you again for listening.